Hello, I'm Jerry Crow of the Pacifica Historical Society and host of Footprints of Pacifica. We get together every week to explore and discover the lore and lore of lovely Pacifica, its character, and its characters. The focus of today's show is the Little Brown Church Museum and Event Center. The Historical Society has made much progress on this project over the last 5 years, and we would like to share the progress with our audience. To help with this, I'd like to introduce my guest, Shirley Gibbs, who is a longtime Pacifica resident and member of the Pacifica Historical Society. She's also chair of the Restoration Committee. So hello, Shirley, and welcome to our show.
Thank you, Jerry. I've brought along a video to show our progress. The video was put together by Jim and Patty Kramer, and they also used some early footage by Bob Twigg and Steve Brown of Channel 26. This was shown at our recent 100th anniversary celebration of the Little Brown Church.
Well, good. Let's get right to the video then. Here's Pacifica as it is today, and that's the Little Brown Church, the focus of our show. The Little Brown Church was the first of the Presbyterian churches built along the Pacific coast. There were a series of 3 of them, with the idea that the advent of the Ocean Shore Railroad would open up the coast side to rapid development. There you see a stock share of the Ocean Shore Railroad Company, which operated between 1905 and 1920. There's trains steaming by the Salada Beach station, and there's a view of Salada Beach with the castle in the background. And this is taken from down near the foot of Salada Avenue in those days. There's the Little Brown Church as it looked in 1910, about when it was completed. Local transportation evident. And there's Salada Avenue.
If you notice, at the foot of Salada is the old Salada Hotel, which was built in 1910 and still stands.
And there on the left, you see 2 cottages which are still there. They were built by the then President E.H. Downey Harvey as speculation, I suppose you'd say.
On 25-foot wide lots.
And that last notice indicated that the Little Brown Church was first electrified in 1920. There you see the area in the 1930s. Still not a lot of development, a big disappointment to the realtors. And there's the famous Reverend Herschel Harkins. Our pier is named after him. He was pastor there for many years. He was the original full-time pastor. He used to commute over the hill by horseback, I believe, during his first services, but then he became a regular there as the congregation grew in numbers. In the late 1940s, an addition was built to the back side of the church to take care of Sunday schools and to provide an office for Reverend Harkins. This picture is evident of the rapid development in the 50s. And there's a story about the Reverend dying at the age of 90, but he was beloved.
If you'll notice here, the side entrance on the church, which was moved around to the front on Francisco Boulevard in later years.
That last picture with the pier is evidence of, that would have been about the 1980s after the pier was built. This is a recent walk around of the church to show the condition it was in when we first began serious steps in our progress. Paint's flaking off. If you were up closer, you'd see some evidence of wood deterioration. Also on the south side, there were bottle brush plants that were very close to it that had grown too large and were scraping the paint off as the wind blew them back and forth. We'll see more about the bottle brush plants later on. That entrance that you just saw was pretty badly deteriorated. So these are fairly recent pictures. Some work had been done. You can see evidence of some of the patchwork that.
And these were also our new windows that were installed, the energy efficient windows.
That was one of the first things we did, yeah. So now we're backing up a little bit to, it talks about the initiative we put on the ballot so that the church would not be, the disposition of the church would not be changed without a vote of the people. We needed that assurance to be able to go into the tremendous responsibility that the project represented.
The key ceremony was in August when we signed the lease in 2005.
Now here's some drawings. Then it'll switch to the building itself, and you can compare the architect's remarks showing where work had to be done to properly restore the building.
This is the interior, the way the police department left it.
Carl Baldwin has had a huge role in this whole project.
This shows, excuse me.
Go ahead, Shirley.
This shows the various offices that the police department constructed there too. The building was tented. This was our first huge expenditure, tented for 5 days at a cost of $15,000 to eradicate the wood-boring beetles and the termites.
The structural engineer recommended installing some heavy beams. These are called glue laminated beams. In the rear section of the building. The rear section was not as sturdily constructed as the front, and so these beams went directly under the roof to help support it. And there you see it going in.
We were fortunate to have the services of a local contractor, Dave Blackman. He secured the beam, had his own helpers there to install it, all of his own equipment, and he also got the permit.
Each of those beams weighs more than 600 pounds, and we were scratching our heads trying to figure out how we were going to get them up in the attic. And then Dave had the brainstorm of cutting that little hole in the back and finessing him through there with his lift. Here we are on the roof.
Now that we had the support in the roof and the trusses and everything anchored, we needed the new roof, and we put this out to bid. We had 3 bids on the roof, accepted one from Glen Park at the cost of $35,000. This is our second big expenditure.
There were several layers on the roof that they had to all be stripped away, previous roofings, down to the rafters, and then plywood put over. The plywood strengthens the building itself as well as making a better base for the roofing material.
The new gutters and drain pipes were placed. Copper, partially funded by one of our Historical Society members.
Yeah, Stuart and Christine Cross, they live in Palm Springs now, but they were very generous to us. That was the entry. There's some tile work there. That'll come out. We're going to go back to the original flooring. That's Anna Booth walking past. This is where the stairway was before. As you'll see later on, its location is going to be moved. This is the upper area. This was a number of offices for the police department before. This corner was the chief's office. That's what it looks like on the plan. Well, that's the main part of the building. That's me trying to think of what to say. There we are during part of removal of the partitions that would no longer be needed. You can see that the plaster had peeled away over the years on some parts of the building. That's a drawing of the tower looking downward, and here are the steps up into the tower. And
There was so much moisture in this area. The drywall was moist, the insulation behind it was all pulled out, and you could look straight through and see the sky.
and that's Shirley taking care of things. And that's John Maria on her right. The old insulation had deteriorated and had to be removed too, but all fresh insulation is in now. We ended up deciding to pull all of the drywall and plaster off throughout the building, because otherwise we wouldn't know where the deterioration was. There's Helen James. There's Rick Della Santina in the back center. On the broom, I think, is our president, Kathleen Manning, or the shovel.
Right,
Yeah.
wielding the shovel.
There she is wielding the wheelbarrow.
Debris removal, and there was a lot of it.
No sacrifice is too great for this project for the city of Pacifica. This is the accumulation of the drywall that we had taken out of, I guess that was attached to the former partitions. We hadn't taken the drywall down on the outer walls as yet.
It's Charlotte Heiser inside the bin.
Yeah, she's engineering the bin capacity there. We filled that bin up, and then some.
Clorinda.
Clorinda Campagna. And that's Carl Baldwin helping to get some of the staples in the floor that used to hold the carpeting down. Since we're going to refinish the floor, we want to get the old staples out of there. And that's Rick Della Santina showing a more modern way to do it.
Back-breaking work.
Yeah, we do it just for a while at a time. It gets to you pretty quickly. There's Anna Booth again, local poet and promoter of the pier. Here are the beloved bottle brush trees.
There were 11 of them, and they just held the moisture against the building.
Yeah, that accelerated the deterioration. When they were small, they probably were considered ideal, but they had become monsters. Is this Public Works doing the chipping?
No, we hired Evergreen Tree Service to do this work.
Aha. So eventually the exterior plantings will be all new. We've had a grant already from the Garden Club to help with that. Here's
The upper and lower bell tower. We let the contract for the upper part of the bell tower, but when he began work, he found there was so much deterioration and dry rot that went all the way down to the southeast corner. Then we had to sign a contract to do the work on the lower bell tower. This was a huge expenditure, nearly $45,000 with the change orders. The building had to be jacked up 4 inches, a new pony wall put in, a tremendous amount of work.
That's David Ingram of David Ingram Construction that you see. And you can tell that it's virtually a total rebuild of the lower 2/3 of the tower.
We were really shocked at the amount of dry rot and deterioration.
I don't recognize.
I think it was one of David's
I guess
workers.
one of David's people, yeah. But with the repairs and the all-new material, if the building is kept in good shape, it should last another 100 years, we think. One of the windows there in the tower on the lower side broke during the construction, and that was replaced. Turned out to be a really heavy piece of glass. It's about 3/8 of an inch thick. And
That last slide showed the waterproof barrier that was installed just before the siding. We attempted to use as much of the old siding as possible.
I don't think the tower had any waterproofing in the past, and there was a time when the windows up above had no glass in them by design. So that helps explain how much deterioration had occurred over the years. There's David up putting the finishing touches on things.
Now we have the bell tower weather tight.
Yeah, it's really solid. The next thing was the south side of the building, which takes the most weathering. And as you can see, there was more than we expected there to be worked on.
Shows where the buttresses were. We had an infestation of bees. Were there even when the police department were in the building. We had to have a bee removal expert come out and remove them, and there were thousands of them.
The folks helping us at this stage are the Follners of the 4F group, local construction company. Very competent, very fine to work with.
And we've been fortunate to have them. With their support and their advice, and even a break on each contract that was signed, a donation back to us in labor costs.
So with the completion of this step, the south side exterior was completely redone. The buttresses were so far gone that they decided to go ahead and replace them entirely. And you notice that there are little copper corner guards on them. There are also on the tower, there are two of the Follners, that's Dave with the hammer, and Matt, some of their crew.
Is the Pacific Islanders football team.
Oh yes, they came in to help us take the last of the drywall out, which was actually a huge job, and to get the plaster down off the ceiling. So this was a volunteer effort. They spent their Saturday helping us.
There was an immense amount of debris.
We filled a dumpster and a dump truck, I think, twice over. A lot of heavy work, and these guys really pitched in.
Heavy, exhausting work.
The virtue of this then is that the plumbing and the electrical could be done properly without having to finesse things through. Everything could be done the best way, because we completely replaced both the plumbing and electrical system.
These are the children of the workers there. They just come in to help sweep up.
Yeah, they didn't do any of the dangerous stuff. There's Matt again, and Mary Doherty is on the right. So all new electrical. The lights were flickering with the previous electrical system, and we had to have it just plain disconnected and removed. So here's John Maria struggling to get some of the old cabling out.
And he's putting in additional sill bolts in the foundation.
Yeah, that's down underneath.
Right, underneath the original sanctuary.
So he's under the floor. You can tell there's only about, 3.5 or 4 feet clearance at the most. So the new electrical is what you see in yellow, and there you can see it running through the rafters. Nice clean lines.
The new electric box.
Yeah. Shirley with her saw, and Helen James. There's a meeting of, I guess, the Restoration Committee and plus a few. Fundraising, yes, that was it. And there we are looking at the south side before the fresh paint was put on. So lots of newness on the south. And so at this stage, the tower, the south side, and the roof are all new, plus all the windows that needed replacement.
We had a meeting with the architect and the city building inspector. There was a problem with the third page of our building plans. And this was the get-together when we also made a few changes. We had overlooked a storage area for the chairs and tables. And also we changed the upstairs restroom into a unisex room. And that was part of the plans that had to be redone. Again, this is the interior of the bell tower, ready for insulation and sheetrock.
The plumbing system was completely redone also. All copper line in there now. There we are. I think that's in the suit is David Canepa, maybe?
It's our architect.
Oh.
It was Michael Garavaglia.
That's right. Excuse me.
Some lath and plaster.
Yeah. We debated over whether to replace the lath and plaster with the same material, but decided on sheetrock. It has the same function and it is substantially less expensive for us. That staircase is to be moved over to the left by the time we're done. That wall that was pictured in the previous scene is going to be completely bolstered with plywood to stiffen the building and make it more earthquake resistant.
This shows the lights in the upper portion of the sanctuary.
The rafters, the wood on the rafters was all in great shape, so we didn't have to replace any of that. And most of the framing in the walls, once you got up several feet above the ground, were also in excellent shape.
It's a future museum area here.
This is the upper level. Some of the insulation is put in. It's all going to be insulated by the time we're finished here. Those are the old stairs that led from the main level down to the lower level.
There on the right you can see some new ductwork that was installed by Quality Heating and Plumbing, the local contractor, Mr. Hallman.
We'll also have a new furnace. There was a leftover mannequin from some of our rummage sale donations. We didn't know what to do with it.
This is a warming kitchen.
5 minutes.
Here's the insulation coming in.
This was another heavy, exhausting job. We had to pay workers to bring these bundles of insulation. Sidewalk delivery only. See there, them bringing them into the building.
Yeah, they had to kind of wrestle them up the stairs. There's the insulation installed. You can see what a difference it makes, inside and out.
And under the floors.
It'll do a lot to conserve energy in the building. More of the insulation. This is okay. Now we're outside again. The next phase was the north side along the close to the ground. The foundation was pretty well shot, we discovered. So they're digging a new one. They've jacked up the building to keep it in place while they do the work underneath. Not easy, very hard work. So that brings us up to the present stage. And why don't we talk a little bit about how much has been spent to date, Shirley?
Well, you're the treasurer, but I figure we've spent about $300,000.
Well, that's right. And maybe spent is not quite right, because some 60 or so thousand of that has been in the form of donations by our contractors. So they have saved us that much.
Absolutely.
And that's due to your good efforts as our chief contracting officer. So there's more to go, of course.
Well, we need about $300,000 to finish the project. It includes bringing the building into being handicapped accessible. I have a long list that includes the 3-story lift and the 2 restroom renovation, finish the rough and electrical plumbing, the subsurface drain system on the north side, the interior and the exterior paint, the handicap ramp from Salata Avenue, modernizing the warming kitchen, the finish work, the doors, the trim, the baseboards, the front porch and steps need to be rebuilt, and the landscaping.
Well, that's quite a bit, but we think we can see our way clear to finishing off. At the beginning, it was pretty daunting. The way that we've come up with these funds really represents a variety, as I recall. We've been very successful with castle tours, but there are many other ways that we raised funds.
Well, most of the funds have been through the efforts of the fundraising committee, and I can't commend them enough. We've had doll shows, we've sold cookbooks and throws, we've had concerts, we've had rummage sales, we've had castle tours. Grants don't seem to be forthcoming. So it's been on the shoulders of the Partnering Together campaign with Clarinda and the fundraising committee.
Okay, we're close to the end of the show. Just would like to mention a number of contractors that have been especially generous toward us. Dave Blackman, Rick Lee, Mr. Howman, and Mr. Blaley is installing the lift
Right.
at cost. And currently the
The
4F
Follners.
group, the Follner family, have been just a wonderful blessing to us.
They have been.
So we have a rummage sale coming up at the end of the month.
We sure do.
The work goes on. Rummage sales are good bread and butter fundraisers.
They are.
And it'll be in Lindemar Shopping Center, and we hope to see a lot of folks there helping us with the building blocks to finish off this project.
Well, I'd like to mention that all prior work has been done in phases as the funds have become available. But this is the first time in 5 years that we've been unable to fund the next phase.
Yeah, so we need help. And,
We do.
And certainly appreciate anything that folks can do for us. Well, that's about all the time we have tonight. So today, remember, if you want to get involved with the Pacific Historical Society or our many projects, our address is Post Office Box 752, Pacifica 94044. Our website is pacificahistory.org, or you can call 650-359-5462. Thanks for watching our show.